Welcome all to the second section on MVIS security. So here is the agenda of this session, a quick recap on what we covered in the last session, then followed by a demo. Just that we have a context of what we are going to discuss today, and just to keep the things in perspective, a quick recap on what we discussed in the previous session. We touched upon the various flavors of security in MVIS, overall security concepts, the API security, authentication, authorization, the need and use cases of OAuth, and an in general architecture of how a system which is using MVIS and OAuth flow in it. So what we're going to demo today is a kind of an app which is based on a client credential flow. So as I highlighted before, client credential flow is being used when you are working on a trusted app, and the app makes connection to the auth server, gets the access token, and that access token is then further moved to the MVI system. So that's what we're going to demo in this session. So what we have created is kind of an app which is called as Rocket Product Management System. Just gives you a list of products, not software products, but in general different products. And what I've done is I've created a Angular based like a single page application, and the backend is a Spring Boot opening up the REST APIs. We're gonna talk to the Auth0 server for the initial login and authentication. And in behind the scenes in the Spring Boot application, we're gonna call up the MVIS server for a particular resource point called as product, and that is going to be using the client credential. So what we're going to do is internally the app is, when it's initialized, it's going to call up the Auth0 server with its client credentials, and that is going to retrieve the access token, and that access token is further being forwarded to the MVIS resource server. So hope that gives you a context of this application. So let me start with giving you an idea about how this application is divided. As I said already, we have a front end and a back end. So if you see over here is an APM is the Angular based front end for your application, and the product backend is kind of a Spring Boot based REST server, which is just going to serve and the product details based on the access tokens scopes defined for it. So it is providing you the backend for it. So now what we have is, like, I've opened up the Spring Boot application, which is Angular based application, which is running on port 4200. So that is the running in at 4200 port. Then I have a Spring Boot application which is running on 8443 port, if I'm correctly saying on that part. Yeah, it's initialized on port 8084. Okay, so that's the application for it. Now let's go to the part where we see how Auth0 server is being configured for this application. So people who have been using the Auth0 server may be familiar with the screens, but if somebody is not, they have kind of a concept of you create an account, and every account can have multiple tenants, and each tenant can have applications and APIs for it. So APIs are basically machine to machine interactions. Use cases and applications are a way of saying that you can configure a web application or a single page application. So in our case, the first part which I want to focus on is the API. So I have created a test member API. Okay, and if you look at the permissions, so I have configured to the typical expiration time and everything for it. The interesting part for us are the permissions. So I have given over here is the read customer permission in the API. Okay, and the way they have is, like, if you want to access this application, they automatically create for you a machine-to-machine application. It's just the constructs of auth 0. I think even Okta will have its own constructs for it. So I have given access, allowed these things, these APIs to be invoked by the test member application. So if I look over here, click on it. I'm sorry, not that way. It has more, yeah. So I've given them, okay, read member, test members, write members, and read customer permissions. So in that way, you can configure for a client credentials. This is the client ID, and the secret is the secret, which you can pass over there. Another important point which I wanted to highlight is where do I find my certificates. So at least in auth 0 point of view, it's at a tenant level, so all the applications actually share it. But let me go into one of the test member application, go down into the advanced settings, then there is certificates, and this is the certificate. So one can download the certificate, import it into the key store of type PKCS12 and give it to the MVIS. So last time when we showed you the how to configure MVIS, the steps remain the same, and this is the certificate which you need to download, push it into the PKCS12 key store, and off you go, and configure that plus key store to MVIS. So coming to the meat of the application, here is the application which we wanted to demo to you. It's kind of product management system which will display the list of products. You can configure, delete, and everything. The important part first is like I will log into the application, so you can have various Twitter, social handle settings. So I've just put it over here as login with auth 0. So in this way, it is going to the auth 0 server. This is their universal login app kind of screen. I use my Google authentication over here. So I log in, and if you see over here, the product list. So this information, the list of products which you see over here, are being retrieved from MVIS using the client credential flow for it. So you have your login, logouts. You can have product list. You can click on it, and you can get details of it. So all of this in data is being fetched from the MVIS system, and then you can have simple login, logouts. You can create based on your use cases lot much details of the applications. I'll try to show you what I've done in the MVIS system now. So again in MVIS, just to recap it, I have a demo account with a data resource of products, which is being protected by having the access control list of demo products. If I go inside it, I have the read customer, which allows that role is one which for access a token which is having the scope of read customer will be able to invoke this endpoint and will be able to fetch the data. So hope this gives you kind of an idea how one can configure it. One can simply log out and log in it with this one, and it goes, yeah. So maybe this gives you a fair idea how this overall end-to-end integration with an identity provider like auth 0 and MVIS coming into play, and we are able to access the protected resources. Thank you all.